Today we're going to dive into one of the most controversial and frightening experiments in the history of psychology, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Get ready to discover a story that reveals the darkest aspects of human nature. In 1971, Philip Zimbardo, a psychologist at Stanford University, decided to investigate the psychological effects of perceived power in a simulated prison environment. He wanted to understand how ordinary people could transform when placed in roles of authority or submission. The experiment began with the selection of 24 university students, all male and with no criminal record. They were randomly divided into two groups, guards and prisoners. The prison was created in the basement of Stanford's psychology building, with makeshift cells and a solitary confinement area. On the first day, prisoners were arrested in their homes, handcuffed, and taken to the simulated prison. They were stripped of their clothes and given prisoner uniforms, while the guards were given military uniforms, mirrored sunglasses to avoid eye contact, and batons, although they were instructed not to physically use them. The first day went relatively smoothly, but things quickly started to fall apart. The guards, without any specific training, began imposing harsh rules and punishing prisoners in creative and humiliating ways. This included making prisoners perform strenuous physical exercise, cleaning bathrooms with their bare hands, and sleeping on concrete floors. On the second day, the prisoners rebelled. They ripped off their identifications, covered the cell doors with their mattresses, and refused to obey the guards. In response, guards used fire extinguishers to force them away from the doors and stormed the cells, stripping the riot leaders and placing them in solitary confinement. From that point on, the guards' behavior became increasingly sadistic. They began dividing prisoners into groups of good and bad, rewarding the good with privileges such as food and water, while the bad were deprived of these basic necessities. This generated distrust and hostility among the prisoners. Over the following days, the situation deteriorated further. One of the prisoners, identified as 8612, began exhibiting signs of extreme emotional distress. He was led to believe that he could not leave the experiment, despite being suffering from a nervous breakdown. Eventually, he was released, but his mental state alarmed Zimbardo and his team. Another prisoner, 819, had an emotional breakdown after being publicly humiliated by guards. He was placed in solitary confinement and heard the other prisoners chanting that he was a bad prisoner. When Zimbardo tried to remove him from the experiment, 819 initially refused, feeling that he needed to prove that he was not a bad prisoner. Only after a conversation with Zimbardo did he agree to leave the experiment. On the sixth day, the situation became untenable. Christina Maslach, a young psychologist and Zimbardo's girlfriend at the time, visited the prison and was horrified by what she saw. She confronted Zimbardo, questioning his ethics and humanity in allowing such abuse to continue. This confrontation was the catalyst that led Zimbardo to end the experiment prematurely, after just 6 days of the planned 14. The Stanford Prison Experiment revealed how quickly and deeply people can internalize roles of power and submission. Guards who were normal, peaceful students became authoritarian and cruel, while prisoners lost their identity and dignity. The experiment demonstrated the potential for the abuse of power in hierarchical systems and the vulnerability of the human spirit in situations of oppression. After the experiment, Zimbardo faced severe criticism for his conduct and lack of intervention in the face of overt abuse. He himself admitted that he got carried away by the dynamics of the role of prison superintendent, neglecting his duty as a responsible researcher. Despite the controversies, the Stanford Prison Experiment remains a powerful reference in psychology and in discussions about research ethics. It serves as a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of safeguarding the rights and dignity of individuals, regardless of circumstances. And so, we end our journey through one of the most disturbing chapters in modern psychology. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends. Until next time, and remember, always question authorities and protect your humanity.